silver, and another bronze for later. And these dudes they're dedicated. I'll tell you that because most of the people are hungover, right?
Yeah, yeah, it's
Because
Sunday.
Sunday afternoon, whatever. And this dude just laid out in the crease. It's a 7-7 game. It looks like dude or 8-7. Dude lays out in the crease. No visor, no cage. Lays out in the crease to like cover the puck as a player. Like push it to his goalie or whatever. I mean,
Yeah, that's just Sunday Rec League.
and the
That's
goalie's jersey is a Zin jersey. It says Zin Energy. So it's like
Jesus
Zin and says
Christ.
energy underneath.
Well, welcome back to the Artie and Roller
Oh,
Show.
and they tie it up.
And I don't think you can get a better intro than that. So, we're back with the Artie and Roller Show. We're just bringing you hockey all around, always. Roller content, always. But Anth, how's it going? What's going on at NERC?
I mean, we got Crickwater. That's as Philly as a name as you get. Versus the Honeybees, a new team, and they just tied up with 0.6 seconds left in the Sunday Bronze League. So, I mean, enough said. So,
Is your Sunday Bronze League? Is it like do they drink a lot afterwards and hang out, or are they mostly okay?
Yeah, like parking lots packed after the game, and it literally runs from 12 p.m. till 10:30 p.m. every Sunday, straight through. Like,
how many teams do you have in that league?
On Sundays, there's 24, and then during the week, I have 40. So I have like 64 teams plus the 2 junior teams. So it's a lot, bro.
Crazy,
It's
dude.
a lot.
That's wild. Well, back to the Artie and Roller Show. I think there's been a lot of hockey going on the last couple of weeks. One thing I want to talk about: DU national champions, 10-time national champions. Shout out to 3 players too that played roller from San Diego. Played in basically Darren's San Diego inline and there too. So the Boyum brothers, Zeev and Shy. And then you also got Sam Harris too. I really didn't know Sam Harris played a lot of roller, and that's what Darren from Narch told me. So that was pretty sick. Just to see 3 players that play roller win again with DU. Can't
And
beat.
they talked about the brothers on Chiclets too. They were
Yeah.
like hyping them up on Chiclets, I heard. And then that's the most winning organization in D1 men's ice hockey. So
Yeah. That
David
game was
Carl,
insane.
oh, dude,
Matty
it
Davis,
kind of
the
worked them a
goalie,
little bit.
the goalie's insane.
Yeah. The DU goalie in that third period had like 4 or 5 saves that were just unbelievable because BC's offense is lethal, right? With Gauthier, Smith. So the fact that and Leonard too, like they're nasty up front.
Oh yeah,
DU
dude. Yeah,
locked
they
it
were
down,
really
though.
nasty against DU. Nothing. I was just chirping BC. I just thought it was funny because what Cutter whatever the fuck his name is.
Cutter Gauthier said in the beginning of the game.
Yeah, like there's gonna be a lot of tears on that side. He's gonna have like a couple tonight, and I was like, dude, like I mean, that's pretty cocky to say. Yay, Mark Messier. So
no, and he's just got that like attitude about it. He's another roller guy though, right? So it's funny because he's played roller back in the day and State Wars and stuff. But yeah, a little bit of a cocky attitude. So
I was a little Homer, and obviously DU.
Yeah. I mean, I
Mayhew built that place. So, you got to just, what's crazy is you've had a lot of roller players go through there too. From, what is it? The OC Blades player, Rekashani.
Okay.
He played there. Troy Terry played there, won a national championship. Kyle Mayhew built the building, played there, won a national championship.
Building that he built, baby.
He built that. And then you got the Boyum brothers, and Shy won too with Mayhew in 2022. So yeah, that I don't know. Maybe it's just like a roller thing.
Dude, roller's on top right now.
There we go. Well, talking about national championships, we got to talk about the D1 national championship that just happened last night, which would have been Saturday night. That went on to 3 OTs. I think there was well over almost 90 to 100 shots. Maxim Curie, I believe, is a freshman at GCU, or it's his first year, 55 shots against. I mean, Marky Hager, hats off to Marky Hager of Lindenwood and Maxim Curry of GCU. Like, one of the most unreal performances by 2 goaltenders I've ever seen, to be honest. Like, just timely saves when you had to make saves. It was just insane.
Yeah, we the goaltender for GCU, he was out at Narch when I was there playing for Pure Maple, and he played sick there too. And we were talking at the end of the tournament. He's a big fan actually of RDN, so shout out to him. But we were talking after the tournament. He said he was like I might not even be the starter at GCU, and then goes and wins them a national championship to beat Lindenwood, who's like a powerhouse.
Powerhouse, they play together a lot, and obviously like being Lindenwood, you have a lot, like you have eyes on you. People want to beat you always. So you have a lot of pressure too. I feel like people think like, there's a lot of pressure that goes with just playing with the top organization. So just both of those teams, they just played a pure roller game. Watching that game, there was like not one time where you're like, oh, this is a boring game. Like that game was intense. They went at it the full game. Yeah, I would say Lindenwood controlled it more, but GCU played a perfect defense, obviously, to beat them. They Curry stopped everything he needed to stop. That goal by Christian Acosta, unbelievable goal. It did look like Curry got hurt before that too, but man, it was just that game was insane.
And what's like typically with like college roller, like it is less possession. It's not like the pro division where it's like straight possession all the time. So you see a little more chaos. Like I've refed it for many years and stuff. And it was just one of those games there. You watched the entire thing. I didn't get to watch the finish of it, but GCU's a new program that, it's now on top. So good to see a new team finally win. Right. So,
Yeah, and
it was a great game in general. And I watched most of it, but it was, shout out to GCU for getting the dub.
yeah, and I think like one. I'm gonna find the shot total here. So 75 shots, 70. Like that's insane.
That's a
Uh,
lot, especially in roller.
in roller, but like one thing I guess we couldn't mention GCU without Aiden Schwetz.
Yep.
He left Lindenwood to build the Lopes program. Obviously, you have other people involved to help. Their coach,
Yeah, Garvey.
Garvey. I mean, what a legend and what really just like a mentor too, somebody that they can really look up to, and just he's been everywhere, played everywhere. So
Oh yeah.
it's really nice just to have that on the bench and bought into kids all around the country coming to play for a program, and they ended up winning it in 2 years.
Yep.
It's
That's pretty sick, actually.
yeah, it's pretty sick, but it's just being committed to something, just being committed to one goal, being committed to each other and to a team. So like really hats off to everybody involved in that program, from top to bottom. I'm sure there's a lot of people that probably go unnoticed too that are involved,
Yeah.
that
And,
helps. So
and we've talked about them before with like how they have a presence on social media. Like we've talked about it before with some of the college teams having really good like social media accounts that keep up with the team and keep people engaged on what's going on. And they're one of those teams again who has gone full board all in on the NCRHA. So like you said, shout out to them, kudos to them for and a triple overtime game. I mean,
dude,
that's sick. And those are longer games with the stop clock, the 3 periods, a little different than your traditional tournaments and stuff too. So that's a long game.
And you know what's pretty cool to see too? Like one thing that I love about Roller Dad News, but like even like I'm like a fan of it. Just looking at the comments is like the interactions between the players is probably the coolest thing that you get to see, and that's why we're Players Pod, we're Players freaking brand. Like we just the interaction. We built this community for those players. You see after the game the way that no one wants to lose the game, right? But the way that LU handles a loss like that,
yeah,
pure class.
Absolutely.
Hats off to Ronnie Bilstein. Like just to have that, you're Lindenwood. You are everyone's expecting you to win. But just the way they handle the losses tells a lot about the program and the people involved at Lindenwood too.
And they have to have confidence because they get, some of the best players in the country at that age group coming to Lindenwood pretty much on a whim, right? So you have to figure they're going to be back hungrier next year. So next year's finals, I mean, not to jump too far ahead, but like next year's finals should be epic, right? Because they're going to be hungry. It's the first time they've lost in a while, so you figure they're going to go back and they're not going to take that next the next national lightly. So and I love that it was in a cool place. Like just real quick to wrap it up, like Maine seemed like it was awesome. I talked to a couple kids from Temple; they love the area and stuff. Like the rinks look pretty sweet, like kind of like an ice hockey feel. Obviously,
that's one thing the NCRHA does. Like they went to Salt Lake City,
cool places.
Yeah. So another thing that happened over the weekend as well too. Got to give a shout out to Billy Pascali. Like what an absolute beauty playing in the NYPD versus the New York Fire Department game. It's like it's huge. I mean, do you want to tell more? But you probably know you're on the East Coast.
Yeah. So over here in general, each like fire and police department pretty much has their own hockey team. So New Jersey State Troopers, New York State Troopers, Philly, all of them have their own team. And these teams play against each other a lot in like, just basically, I don't, not like tournament style, but like friendlies, right? They're not very friendly at the end, but
And it's like
they play each
charity
other all
too,
the time.
right? Like it's
Yeah.
charity involved.
Most of them are. Yeah. So when they host big events like that, like I know Philly PD just played a couple of months ago, and they had like a big charity event down at the Wells Fargo where they played New Jersey State Troopers. So it's a huge thing over here, and the FDNY and NYPD is the biggest one. It's like the culmination of like the biggest city, right, and their two departments. And FDNY got out heavy. It was like 5-1, and then the police started battling back, and it was like a 6-5 final. But Billy Piscali went off in the game too.
Yeah, dude.
I think would have 2 or 3 points in the game.
Yeah, Billy was playing for the fire department. First period, like I think he scored the third goal, but like you could just tell, like Billy, he played college ice, and you can just tell his hand. He played ice growing up. He just has hands, and he's gross. But one of the coolest things is Witt, announcing, talking about how somebody texted him about Grinelli. Piscali plays for the Team USA inline hockey and stuff, and there he is just dancing in the middle. I thought that was nasty. First period, there was like a brawl, and Billy just sprints and dude, like into it, dude. That was so sick. Yeah. But yeah, it was just a cool thing to see.
And I saw a bunch of like champion sticks out there from a lot of the players too. So another roller brand kind of making its way into that game. There's
Absolutely
a ton of them out there. So we've worked with them for the Mile High Showdown. So cool to see like that, on a national broadcast like that, through Barstool. And Barstool did a pretty good job with the broadcast in general. The one thing they did screw up on though at the end, apparently the coaches were going at it at the end of the game, and they were just zoomed in on the players. I'm like, I want to see the coaches go at it because they were like, they might fight. I wanted to see that, but the only thing they didn't catch. But overall, pretty good stuff. So Billy looked great out there. Our boy Barry was texting me like Piscali's got 2 points, just being Barry.
Barry did. Well, let's move on. The interview coming up. You want to talk a little bit about it with the USARs?
Yeah, so we're going to be interviewing Celeste, the assistant coach for the senior women's team. So much like we did with Tim McManus, the senior men roster release, we're going to be doing the senior women roster release. So she's going to be going into just basically each player, talking about her experience with Team USA, and also talking about, her new position as a coach. Now she's played for many years. Now she's on the coaching side of things. She says she retired from the pro scene, but we know how that goes. We'll see if she actually retired. She's like me. I always say I'm done, and I keep playing. So Celeste has been a cornerstone of the USA program for quite some time. So she does everything. She talks about the selection process. She talks about her experience, the other coaches involved. So it's really cool that she has such good knowledge of the program. And what I thought was most exciting, some of these new players that are coming in, she hypes up, and they sound like they're going to be studs to come for the future. So
yeah, the roster, stacked roster, probably one of the best Team USA rosters I've ever seen.
Oh, absolutely.
Really, really excited. Just one cool thing about this interview, it's long, but I think it's very like worth it. If you're really interested in like roller nuts like us, and learning about every player, and just an in-depth about them. Celeste does an amazing job of just really just talking about them and describing who they are. So,
and she does a really good job of her past with like USA older stories from like Team USA, which is cool too. So we go into the history about it too, and NHL talk, like the whole thing. Yeah, so it's all over the map, but it's really good.
Yeah, so excited for this team. This women's team is, like I said, I think they're the one of, if not the best team that I've ever seen assembled. Yeah, they're just gross. So. Send it on over the interview.
Let's do it.
Let's go.
All right, everyone. Welcome back to the RDN Roller Show, where we're continuing our Team USA series, where we're going to be releasing and announcing the senior women's roster, which is the second roster released by the National Development Program. We're super excited to have someone who has not only played for Team USA on multiple occasions, but has just been named the assistant coach of the senior women's teams. Welcome to the podcast, Celeste Loyatho. Did I get that right?
Yeah,
Boom.
You got it.
All right, we're buzzing. Well, hey, first and foremost, congrats on being named the assistant coach. And obviously your playing career with USA is, second to none. So I think you're a perfect fit for the team. So how excited are you to, get this opportunity to finally get on the other side of things and coach?
Yeah, I'm obviously I'm super stoked. Honestly, I'm probably more excited to see new coaches come in the mix. Obviously with Shane coming in, and our other coach Lisa Giovanelli, otherwise known as Juvie, and myself. It's nice to just see some new faces, some new looks. Over the last 2 years, we've only had Charlie Segrillo and Dave Marmosine. So it's just nice to for them to kind of step back and give other people the opportunity to take over the reins. It's exciting.
Awesome.
So growing up for, some people that might not who you are, what teams you played with, what were some of the teams in roller that you played with, like in the women's division and the pro division?
Yeah, I'm one of the rare ones that only played for one. I was Vanquish through and through. I played for Nabil Gurges was my coach growing up when I kind of made some noise in the roller hockey world, and then let's see, that was back in 2008, I think. I started playing with him on his women's team, and then just stayed with it all the way through. He stopped coaching. Well, he still coaches us. He kind of got out of the roller world 2015, and I kind of kept the name and kept the women's team alive. So the only team that we have now is the women's team. But yeah, it was always just Vanquish, coaching and playing with them, boys
I was
and women's.
I was gonna say I'm pretty sure I've only seen you with that jersey on, and even just in rosters, it's always revision. So like huge kudos to you to even like you don't see that in roller or in hockey like ever. So like that's huge props to you on that.
Yeah, appreciate that. We take pride
Like,
in that.
I was gonna say, there's still some of the sickest jerseys. Like, I love that, like blue. Like, I don't know what to call it. Like, almost like a aqua
Scion
baby
blue.
blue. Yeah, like
Yeah.
such a sick jersey still, and you guys still rock them. And it's good that like you've brought a bunch of new girls into that mix as well, right? To get them involved with the scene. So yeah, like Rob said, kudos to you for keeping it going.
Thanks. Yeah, I mean, I think it was always a focus of Nabil growing up to bring in younger girls in the mix, like knowing we were gonna, you know, get old and retire one day, which is where I'm at now. But so that was kind of always my focus. I'm lucky enough to coach out here in California, so I kind of have a lot of context, and I get to see a lot of girls as they're growing up, and I get to kind of give them the chance to get their toe in the water when it comes to women's, which is now women's pro, which is awesome.
What do you know? Like, what do you realize is like the biggest difference of the women's game now compared to, let's, say when you were playing at, your peak or, just back in like, 2015?
Yeah, I mean, just the talent and the player pool is wider now, right? With the introduction of women's pro to Narch and State Wars and those guys putting up some cash money, for some prizes, I think more people are coming out of the woodworks, and that's growing the division. It's something I told the Darren early on. Like, if you build it, they will come. And now you go to Narch and like, there's no easy game. Growing up, it was like you would go 3-0 in round robin, and then play whatever the other top team is, whether that be Echelon or Mission or I'm dating myself, all those other teams in the final, right? It was that one hard game and it's one bad bounce and you're done and you don't win, right? So it's competition is definitely a lot wider and better, and every game it's just like a hard division to win now.
And that's you just dropped a name that I haven't heard in a while. Because no, it's funny. Rob and I always talk about old like wheel companies too, and that's one for the books now. Echelon. I
Echelon,
forgot
yeah.
about the Echelon wheels. They were kind of goaded too at one time. So, but not only with like your involvement in the roller scene, you have a huge involvement, as we can see with your shirt on, with the Anaheim Ducks, right? So, what do you actually do for the Ducks? Are you part of like the street team, hosting events? Like, what are you doing as far as I guess like your job goes with the Ducks?
Yeah, it's a good question. I'm just gonna start with I love my job because it's so unique and everybody always asks me that. So my title is technically fan development marketing manager. Mostly what I do for the Anaheim Ducks is we have a ton of education based programming. So we have a program that uses the curriculum of hockey to create science programs, reading programs, physical fitness programs. We have a very prolific street hockey, aka ball hockey or deck hockey program out here. I think this year we have 70 schools involved, 75 at our peak.
Damn.
So, excuse me. So I help run all that. And with that comes some pretty big, gnarly events. we'll bring in the science program that I talked about brings in 16,000 students into Honda Center, right? So I'm tasked with updating curriculum and getting them inside the building, what they're learning that day. Players are on the ice reading to them about science. And then along with all of that as well, I also have the opportunity, because we're fan development and it's so broad. This last year we created an all girls grassroots beginner hockey program that we call We Play Her Way. And so this year we just graduated our second class in spring. So over 150 girls come through that program that have never been on the ice before. So they're brand new. They come in once a week for 8 weeks, and we teach them how to play hockey. And it's been awesome. We've seen a lot of girls graduate out of that, and I think some of them, a good handful of them, are now starting Lady Ducks in Training, which is our program, our local youth program here. So I get a very broad view of everything. I'm also pretty hands on in our Women in Sports Night, where we brought in a ton of names. I could talk forever about what I do because
you do a lot. I was going to say you
yeah.
are.
Hence why I'm so sick, because we've been through the ringer of a very, very long, busy season. It's been nonstop, and we finally get our last game tomorrow. Sad we're not going into playoffs, but that's the team that we are now. So,
well, they're going to be nasty in a couple years. The Ducks are going to be a problem in a couple years. So
I don't disagree. It's exciting to see them for sure.
What you just talked about a whole bunch of everything that you just did. What do you find that you love the most about your job in particular? There's just this is what I love the most, whether it's putting on the events or just seeing the girls and playing hockey and then transition till the youth leagues. What is it?
Yeah, it's so hard to pin down one thing. I think what I love most about my job is that kind of what I just said, that it is so broad and different. Every day is different, right? You can be focused on one gigantic event, and then as soon as that event's turned over, you got to turn around and shift your attention somewhere else. There's days where, you're at your desk, you're chained to your desk for 10 hours doing communications and organizing stuff, operations meetings. And then there's other times where you're in the warehouse sweating with our part-time group, putting together boxes of materials to send to classrooms. So it's a wild. It's wild because I started in this organization in this department as part-time, and then I became an intern, and then COVID hit, and then I went to run adult leagues actually at Irvine Inline, and then I made my way back here. So it's interesting to see the path of how I've ended up where I am. I didn't know anything like this in Anaheim or in the NHL existed, and it's kind of like an absolute perfect role for me, just because I get to do so many different touch points, and every day is different. So there's a very long-winded answer for you.
Yeah, there you go. I like it.
It seems like you just love your job.
Yeah.
That's what I got. That's sick that you can just go and do something you enjoy every day and get that feel that gratification of going and helping people, and you're affiliated with an NHL team. It doesn't get much better than that. So
Yeah, we could do a whole podcast on what I do.
Yeah. So switching to Team USA, Ant mentioned you are the assistant coach this year. How many times have you represented Team USA as a player?
That's a good question. 7 or 8, I think.
Okay. Is
Something
there
like that.
with 7 times? Is there one that sticks out the most to you that you're this was by far my most favorite event? Or is it just, the chance to represent Team USA that makes it so special?
I mean, that's what you just said is definitely the chance to represent Team USA is so special. There's one championship. I don't know if you boys were around. If you remember, we hosted here in Huntington Beach. We actually were at Honda Center. The final game ended up being us in Canada, and somebody bought out Honda Center, the venue, which we were so rattled about. But it ended up being the best thing possible because it put our final at Huntington Beach, and they had that building, if you guys remember, that main rink was it felt like it was so packed. There were probably maybe 100 people in there, but it felt like there were 6,000 people in there watching this game. And we were losing 1-0. My whole family's there to watch, and me and Kayla DeMint connected on a nice forecheck to tie it 1-1. Actually, no. I won't get into the details of the game, but we tied it 1-1, and then that goal was the go ahead with like 90 seconds left in the game. So we ended up winning in dramatic fashion. And it was just, to win in your backyard with your family there to watch. That was the only world they ever got to watch me in, because they never traveled overseas with us. So that was definitely a special one. Anytime you win, it's special.
Yeah, and the senior women have done a lot of winning over the past several years. One of the years that stood out for me personally, because it was like really the first time I got to meet all the senior women, because we overlapped in 2018 in Italy when you guys won with not like a lot of the core girls that normally play were missing that year, if you remember. And I remember Jetta was like unreal in the championship game. She like stood on her head. And that was just like, and you guys won alongside the junior men. So you could just talk about like that game or like that final and like that experience, getting to enjoy that win with the junior men.
Yeah, that it's funny. That tournament was very interesting for me because that was one of the ones where I was, older, one of the veterans. I started that tournament playing forward, and the coaches asked a lot of me that year, and they asked me to play D, and I think it was the best shift for our team that actually ended up happening. Um,
I
we, I
remember
remember,
this.
and I remember you. I remember my goal actually that game, and I remember you standing on the
Yeah.
bench filming it.
Yeah. Yeah. I
I,
remember
I
that. And go
I
ahead.
bit
Go
it
ahead.
right after I scored, so I ended up sliding on my knees for the celly, which was like one of the best videos I think you've ever taken. I'm biased, but yeah. Then so I remember winning, and the boys had just won. So I remember we were on the rink, and they were on the bench, and I remember like waving them out to like come
Oh, yeah.
celebrate with us. It's interesting. You'll talk about kind of if you talk to Laura Vaharanta or Aliera or the girls that have been around the team for a long time. When we started, we were the same age as the junior boys, and now the junior boys stay the same age because there's an age cap, and we are no longer that age. So you really start to see like they are boys. So it's funny like they come out and we start partying, and it's like, oh, okay, I'm not gonna party with the young boys, but
Yeah.
um, no, that was a fun one. That junior team was stacked too, and it was
Yeah.
they were fun to watch.
I remember when you scored that goal, your celly was sick, and I believe correct me if I'm wrong, but I remember you had like two big blocks, like maybe the shift after or something. Like you broke up a couple big plays, and I remember I was like, "You're just in beast mode right now." And you girls were like fired up because it was like a lot of your core was missing. I forget what the reason was, but a lot of the core was missing. You had a lot of young girls on that team that were first time players and things like that. So it was pretty cool to see you guys kind of overcome adversity. I would say in that game especially, and get the dub. So
Yeah, and we played a stacked Czech team too. I remember that they had a couple of the girls that are now like on their Olympic team. So that was that was and I think that was my last year I ever played.
yep, I believe so.
Who would who would you say is your guys' biggest rival? Would it be Team Canada for USA, or is there another country?
No, I mean I think when you go back through the years, it is Team Canada. Over the years, over the last 5 or 6, I won't really put a number on it. They haven't brought their A squad really. Their development and inline in Canada hasn't been a huge focus. So while that rivalry is always there, I think it kind of bleeds from the ice hockey rivalry. You kind of come and go. Spain is one that's kind of been rivals of ours. It's hard to break into Spain and France's rivalry because they have a big one. And then Czech is a good one too. So it's really like dependent on the tournament. Usually it's one of those three. I would say Canada, Czech, or Spain.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's Canada even for the men's it seems like the USA Canada kind of has slipped and it's more like what you're saying either Czech, France or Spain or even Italy now I guess you could say Anth. But yeah, it is that rivalry though. What you're talking about your favorite memory USA Canada when it's at its peak, it's like the funnest hockey to watch and it's unreal.
Yeah, so fun. And like it's funny because back then we like well, I was young and kind of a little punk, but back then we weren't friends with them off the rink. Like we did not like them. Now, with Lindsey Grigg and a couple other ones, Sarah Powers, like we're tight with them, and so like they come out to Narch and we hang out. But that wasn't the case back then. Like we did not like each other.
Yeah, they were heated. I think even in that 2018, I'm pretty sure they were pretty good at that tournament. I can't remember. I know they at least had like the majority of the girls that were on the team back then. They were pretty good from what I remember. I remember their men's team really struggled that year, but and we talk about it. We've talked about it a couple times on the pod about like Team Canada's inline program and what's been going on with it. So I think you're right. It has slipped up a little bit, but now you're on the other side of things, right? Now you're coaching the senior women. So I think it's about time to let's get this thing rolling and release this roster.
Hold on, before the roster, I got a question about the coaching. What do you look forward to the most though, as being an alternate, an alternate or a head coach, not an alternate, or an assistant coach. My bad.
There we go. You got it.
What do you look forward to the most though with that?
There's a couple of things. I think at the top of it is coaching with Shane and Juvie. I'm excited to learn from Shane. I've been on the bench with him a couple of times. Laura will sometimes ask me to play for Ringster, and so I'll hop out. And he's an incredible coach that sees the game really well, and he communicates what he wants to be executed really well. So I'm excited to learn from him in that aspect. Juvie's somebody that's I'll talk about the coaches when we release the roster, but the other thing would be like it'll be an interesting dynamic to see how the older girls that I used to play with react to me being there and me maybe feeding them information or giving them correction or whatever that might be. They're all great, so I'm looking forward to that. And then just the ability to bring in, we'll see on the roster, there's a couple of young girls that haven't been in the mix that have deserved to be in the mix. So just seeing them with new, fresh eyes, I think is exciting. They're going to wow the international competition pretty good. So excited for all that.
All righty. Well, let me give me 1 second. I'll bring up the roster on my screen. There we go. Choose virtual background.
Rob's our big tech guy here. So
okay. So can you hold on? Can you see that, Ant?
Yeah, I can see it.
Okay. It has everything perfect. You have forwards on the left, and then you got on the right, you got defensemen.
Yeah. All right. Perfect.
All right. So,
all right. Yeah. It's well, it's funny. So as we're kind of letting everyone kind of sink in and see what's going on with the roster, I was talking to Laura about it, and you guys are deep. You have a lot of players. There's 16 total with the goalies, right? So you got 14 players. So you're running 7-7, which I thought was interesting, but I know, the games are pretty long in the international game. So I think they're 25-minute periods or are they 20-minute periods? I think it changes sometimes.
I think they used to be 20, but they might be 25 now.
Yeah, so I know the games are pretty long. So let's start off with the forwards, and we're going to start off with kind of the veteran core, I guess you would say. So first off, we have Ali Era, who can also play defense as well, right? She's a very versatile player. But just tell us what Ali brings to that team. She's been on this team probably as many times as you. So what's Ali bring to this team?
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple of them that have been on the team longer than me, and Ali's one of them. I mean, you kind of said it. She's a veteran player that can play forward and D. It was very intentional. We had a very intentional conversation about taking 14 girls. Obviously, that's a big roster, and that's the largest roster I think that USA has ever taken. And it's because we have girls that can go back and forth and play both, right? Like, it's no secret that some of these girls are getting older in their age. That's why I'm not playing anymore. But you see injuries that happen, and you want to make sure you can run as deep as possible. And Ali brings that depth on both sides of it. She's just like, I used to always describe Ali as a player that never makes any mistakes on the offensive side of the puck or the defensive side of the puck. She's a rock, and she can kill penalties, the quarterback a power play. She can lead the rush. She can defend. Like, I mean, there's really nothing Ali can't do. So she's definitely like our staple all over the place.
She's got a rocket of a shot too, which I think is huge because on those small nets, she puts the puck on net, she's blowing it by most goalies. So she's definitely, I mean, she is I would say probably one of the 4, probably 5 players that is the heartbeat of that team as well, with just like her intensity, how much she cares about the program. I mean, that's really what it comes down to too. So definitely well said about Allie. Moving on to a player who has been in and out of the roster, I think you would say, with Brooke Bryant. I remember, I think 2018 might have been her first year on Team USA as well, if I'm correct. I could be off on that, but I'm pretty sure that might have been her first year. So tell us what Brooke brings to the table. She's an unbelievable ice hockey player, and on the roller side, she's really found her game.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think it was 18 that she was that was her first time, and then because that was before she even went into college. So this is, I mean, Brooke somebody, she went to Mankato State, and then is also playing this last year in the PWHL. So she's in shape and ready to go. I think you can categorize her as kind of like a firecracker, right? And is not afraid to get in the mix of a lot of things. Just lethally skilled offensively and can make people look stupid with their hands. And then also is one of those ones as we go down the roster that brings a lot of youth to our team, but also experience just because she has been in a world championship. You know, she is excited to come back most summers from school and play roller. So she's always getting those touches. So, you know, when we need she scored a big goal in that game we talked about in 2018 too. So
yep, I remember that. Yeah, we got to find those videos somehow because I have them somewhere. I just got to dig deep for them. But there was a lot of good. That game was just unreal for that championship. Now next player on the list here we have Kendall Curtis. I know Rob. Rob knows Kendall pretty well, and she's another one who's just lethal offensively. I feel like when she gets going, she's another person that's hard to be stopped. So what do you see out of Kendall?
Yeah, I mean exactly what you just said, but also Kendall's a very like cerebral, intelligent player offensively, right? She doesn't let herself get trapped and is always conscious of the defensive side of the puck, which is what I like about her a lot. She was also on that 2018 team.
He was.
It's been around for a while. We're just gonna we'll do a whole podcast on the 2018 team. How's that?
I think we need to bring like a bunch of girls on. That would actually be kind of sick, honestly.
Do a round table, yeah. USA round table.
That's
reunion tour.
Let's do it.
Awesome. So yeah, she's stud.
Yeah, Kendall. Stud. I remember her growing up here in Colorado playing, and she's just such a strong skater. Like one thing that she is a very good skater, but she handles her own, and she is a very just handles the puck very well, can move the puck, great shot. But one thing that I always noticed growing up is she was a strong skater. She always played with all the boys teams here at the Tour Stallions. So yeah, just getting to see her. I know it says Idaho Ants, you know, she is from Colorado. But yeah.
Yeah, it's I run these states by everybody, so I can only do what I can only do. But yeah, nonetheless, she's definitely a strong player to add to have back on the roster as well. Moving on to probably one of the most popular players in roller hockey, part of that roller hockey power couple with Tyler Kraft. Now has the mom power as well. So Miss Kyla Kraft, I mean, she is a staple on this USA team. So Kyla brings so many different qualities to the game, right? And I think she's just one of those great leaders of the team as well. And then she's just an absolute dynamite player as well.
Yeah, exactly. And I think what's so rad about Kyla is the speed that she brings, right? We're seeing so much in the international game with France and Spain, and even you know, like on the women's side, we get Namibia and New Zealand. Like they're just faster and faster every year, and there's no denying Kyla's speed and goal scoring ability. Also, yeah, I'm really hoping she taps into the mom power. She was very adamant about telling Shane, like, you know, I'm gonna be ready. I'm coming back. I'm in the gym. I'm working. And there's no doubt about it. Obviously, with her and Tyler, we know they're rink rats, and you see it on their Instagram every day that she's there and getting ready to go. So it'll be really exciting because hopefully we'll get to see her at Narch before we get to see her at Worlds. But it'll be the roller world will be very happy to have her back in the mix for sure.
Mom power shirts need to happen.
Oh, yeah.
I like that.
That'd be awesome. Like USA that. Mom power shirts just for the USA women's squad. That would be so cool.
That's a fundraiser right there.
Yeah,
that's a great idea, Rob. But Rob from even off the camera, just with great ideas. So, now moving on to kind of some of the new players here, you have Mackenzie Williams. So
you're you're just gonna go over Laura?
Oh my God!
Wow, dude.
Oh my God,
Laura, I know you're listening to this, and I do apologize for Ant's mistake here, but go ahead, Ant.
Dash one on the account. So before we get to Mackenzie, let's talk about Laura Variranta. Um, I remember in China specifically, that was like the first time I got to watch Laura up close and personal because we actually played senior women and senior men played at the same time. It was like the only time that ever really happened. So I got to watch her in person and she had like 4 or 5 goals in one game. And I was like, this girl is just unbelievable. So tell us about Laura, her leadership, everything.
Yeah, I mean, her, like all the other forwards we've talked about, her goal scoring ability is uncanny, and her knack to score timely goals in big moments, is I think one of Laura's biggest strong suit. Also, like just her level of care, right? You talk about Aliera and the leader that she is. Like Laura is equally. I think Laura is the only other one that's played more championships than I have. On this roster, maybe Yoko has too. Um, so just like her experience in everything down to like your preparation, right? Traveling for tournaments is hard, and traveling overseas for tournaments is hard. And Laura's always conscious about what she's doing to get her body ready to play, which I think is something that kind of bleeds throughout the rest of the group, especially the younger girls that aren't really familiar with that. But yeah, I mean her big game, big moments. You can't deny that she's that kind of player.
Yeah, I've been talking to her a lot because she's on the Team USA board as well, which is even worse that I almost skipped over her name. But thanks, Rob, for the save there. But I love, and we talked to Tim about this when we were talking about the senior men's roster. One of the things that I love about a lot of this team is all of the girls are playing year round, and I think that's so important. And obviously, you're gonna have a couple girls that are playing ice and then kind of just pop in for the tournament, right? But the fact that a lot of these girls are playing year round and they're involved in the sport, whether it's with women's roller hockey or the Ringster, factory team and things like that. She's one of those girls that is definitely involved in the sport through and through.
Yeah, and I got it. That's actually a good point. A huge shout out to her because she's one of the only other ones that has really taken a big focus on developing our youth players, right? And she puts so much time and effort that goes quietly unnoticed, and unpraised, really. Like I think this summer she's gonna have 2 to 3 girls teams on top of her playing 30 plus women's now, and on top of her playing pro. So she's definitely one that loves the game more than anyone, beside her. But she puts in the work, selflessly. So she deserves all the praise for that for sure.
Yeah, I mean, you hit the nail on the head with that one. So definitely a great asset to have on the team. So next up on the list, now we can get to Mackenzie Williams. So this is her first time, I believe, on the senior women's roster, correct?
100%. Yeah, I think this is actually her first time on any roster.
Okay.
Mac is an '08 birth year, so a very young player. She is somebody that I've coached in ice the last 4 or 5 years. And we actually had her out to play on the Ringster team. So Shane got to see her over, what was that? Winter Wars, I think. And he couldn't say enough good things about her, which I'm so happy because I'm biased, but I'm a huge fan of her playing style. You guys will really like watching her play. She's like Kendall Curtis in the fact that she's a very high IQ player. She can play defense. She can play forward. She can run a power play. She can quarterback a PK. She's young. She's in shape. She's fast. Loves to move the puck. This year in ice, we worked a lot about her being a shooter, and being a lethal goal scorer, which she kind of took to heart a little bit. So I'm excited to see her kind of get her toe in the water this early. She's about the age that I started at playing USA. So I think there's a long career for her to come, on this roster and then this tournament, even before she gets into the college hockey scene. So it'll be exciting.
So she's a pretty big ice player then. Was she like an ice player that transitioned to roller, or did she do both all the time? Do you know?
Does both all the time. Her and her parents, their first love is roller hockey, just like mine. So they try to play. You pay a ton for ice hockey, so that's their first. When we're in season, that's their first, priority. But anytime that she can get on the ice or get on the wheels and play a tournament during the ice season, they're 100% for it.
That's awesome. I mean, you guys are so lucky to have a really good ice scene in that area and a really strong roller scene. Usually you get like one or the other, it's very rare that you have both so strongly, especially with what the Ducks have done with all the ice rinks and the roller rinks. So it's good to see players like her that are doing both and taking both seriously and getting on Team USA, which is probably the biggest praise you can get. So moving on to another young player, Tia Stoddard. I did she play with the Ringster team at Winter Nats?
Yes.
Okay, so I remember
Yes.
watching her as well, and she was pretty nasty and lethal player as well.
Yeah, so Mac and Tia actually started playing roller with Vanquish. I don't remember how long ago. But once Kyla and Allie started Black Ice, Tia hopped ship and went to play with them. And then she's been with Ringster with that group kind of ever since. So she's kind of found a home there, which is great. Tia, not unlike Brooke, is kind of just a firecracker and just a natural goal scorer. She's a lefty and she's small. She's slippery and can make people look stupid. And she can play that far side on the power play. She can kill penalties. I say that a lot about this group because we have such a deep group. But she's one that when she accepted her spot on the roster, she shot us an email that was just very well worded, just saying how excited she is and that what if there's anything that in her game that she can work on going into this tournament to let her know. Just a good kid all around. So I'm super excited to have her on the bench, and I think she's going to be good for the young girls like Mac because she's closer in age to them. So it'll help kind of bridge the gap with that older core and the younger core that we have.
Yeah, what I'm hearing a lot of though is that depth that you kind of referred to a few times on here is that this team is probably one of the deeper teams with a good mix of veteran players and new players. I don't want to say rookies because not all of the young players are rookies, but it seems like you have a really good mix, which is going to make it a nightmare for other teams in other countries going into this tournament and for the World Championship. So let's switch over to things that we talked about you and praising you earlier in 2018. Let's switch over to the defense side of things here. So let's start with Daniela. So she actually moved to the East Coast, right?
Yeah, she's in New York now.
Okay, so I know she's been playing as much as she can up in New York, but she's another person. I think she was out the past couple of years. I don't think she played for the world's team, so she's making her way back into the mix as well. And I love watching her game too. She's really good, like with that first breakout pass and really making really smart decisions. So tell us why you selected Daniela.
I mean, again, you just said it. Her first breakout pass and her ability, to defend. She's definitely a natural defenseman, but also has an offensive ability. Like you said, she's been back east. She was in London for a year, so she hasn't been playing as much as she was over COVID. She was a rink rat, and honestly, I think that's the best hockey I'd ever seen her play over those couple years. Just because she was on the rink every single day. So when Daniela is at her peak, I think she's easily one of the best defensemen in the game. So it'll be exciting. It'll be very exciting to see kind of where in this decor where she fits and who she plays with and how that kind of affects her game going into the tournament.
Yeah, one of the cool qualities about her is she does kind of sneak up as that third person high and gets that shot off from the point. So it's good that you did mention she does have a great defensive side thing, but she is sneaky offense as well. So now a
Yeah,
straight defense. Go
she's
ahead. Go
got a
ahead.
she's got a toe drag that can make you look stupid, and I've been on the other
Yeah,
side of it too. So
exactly. Where at that third, like when she's the third person high, she makes that little toey and gets that shot off, and she has that great release. So now moving to probably one of the best defensive defensemen, Jennifer Friedman. So she is got that perfect roller hockey build with the length, and she's another player that is a pain to play against. When I watched at Winter Nationals, the championship game, Palmer versus Ringster, she was an absolute beast in that game, up and down the rink, all over the place. So that's definitely got to be a great asset for you guys to have on the back end.
for sure, I mean her size. There's no denying like her size and reach. Right, she's easily one of the tallest persons on the rink. And then just like the thing about Jen is the intensity that she brings, and her like literal no quit mentality. She will die on the rink for the girls that she's playing with before she doesn't make a play she's supposed to execute. And like so her intensity and compete level can be scary for a lot of times for a lot of people, honestly, but it's so contagious. And like it's so needed on a bench. And I remember Shane mentioned something about her. Like, if she's not having a good game and she's not playing, she still brings the same intensity on the bench as a teammate as she does if she's, on the rink every other. So I think she's going to be somebody that gets our team fired up and holds a lot of people accountable because she also has a ton of experience in ice and roller.
Yeah, she brings you into the fight is what I'm hearing from you. She like really
Yeah.
will bring in the fight. It could be in a game where you're up 10-0 or down 10-0. She's going full speed, full steam ahead, and she's a competitor at the end of the day. So definitely a huge asset for your team. And she's had tremendous championship games. Every time I feel like I watch her in a championship, she's always one of the best players on the rink. So going to be huge for you guys as you go down the stretch into those playoff rounds. So another great defenseman coming up here with Ariana Yokoyama. Did I got that right? I think
Yeah,
so.
Ariane Yokoyama. You got it.
Ariane, I was close, but I love watching her play as well. Another great first pass. She's another one that eats pucks for a living. So been on the team for a while, probably 5 or 6 times, I would say, has been on the team. I know she missed a couple of years, but tell us about Ariane.
Yeah, I mean, Yoko is somebody that does so many little things that doesn't get praised enough, really. Like she's that kind of, I wouldn't even call her a role player because she is such a standout defenseman. But she's that role playing defenseman that like is gonna go out, like you said, eat pucks, win battles on the. She comes out with the puck in every battle. She's small, but like she doesn't play small. She plays a huge game. Um, Playing with her is so much fun, and I remember playing against her. She's one of the D's. Her and Jen are the two D's that I don't like facing. And then she's also one that's been around the USA scene for a very very long time, so she brings so much experience as well. She's really like a backbone of the defensive core that we have for sure.
Yeah, I think she's been maybe like an assistant on a couple of the teams before in the past too. So she's going to bring the leadership. Obviously, I remember talking to her at Winter Nationals, and she's like one of those girls that comes out of the tournament with bruises all over her body from just like getting in the way of everything. And yeah, definitely a huge asset to the team as well. I mean, we keep talking about this, but your team is so deep. I'm just like I keep looking at the roster going through, and I'm like, this team is one of the best teams we've seen in a long time, and it's going to be a nightmare for other teams. So let's talk about Chloe Sapra. Not too familiar with her, so why don't you just kind of give us your 2 cents on her and why you selected her to the team?
Yeah, Chloe's another young one. I think she's also an '08 like Mac. So she's a rare player that is a roller hockey only player. I don't believe she plays ice hockey. I think I've tried to get her to play ice hockey for me in the past. So she year round plays roller with the boys. And then let's see, when was it? It was a few years ago. Palma was had one of the years where they were pretty thin, or they had an injury or something, and they asked Chloe to come up and play. And I remember her and her parents were always a little hesitant, just because it was an older group. She must have been 14 at the time, maybe 15, maybe younger. So she stepped into that pro division and was effective immediately, and was so huge for Palma, and is now one of their staple defensemen. I think because she's able to play out here year round, she's always on the rink touching pucks. So she'll be a good role player for us defensively. She doesn't make a lot of mistakes as a young kid, which is great. So I think she'll be able to kind of fit in the mix, and it'll be interesting to see who she plays with and how she matches for our squad.
I mean, it's very rare that you see a pure roller player, right? Where they have no, at least some ice hockey experience. And a lot of this team does have accolades in ice hockey that are tremendous, and that's awesome that she's like one of those few players that get to play just as a pure roller player on this team, and now she's on Team USA. So hey, it goes to show you that can work too. Whatever way you want to do it, ice and roller or just roller, it still works. So let's move on to when I watch Sarah Beer play. I'm just like shocked. Rob, you might want to hop in there on this one because I know you're a huge fan of Sarah's game.
Yeah, Bears. Yeah, Bears is, she's nasty. I think she scored the that game winner in at State Wars in Missouri a couple years ago to go to the championship game for Palma. But yeah, she's a great player. One of the other players have been on Team USA for a long time as well.
Yeah, it's funny you bring up a big goal from Sarah because that's not typically uh, something that gets mentioned with her because she's not usually a goal scorer, and I think she'll tell you that. But what she is like, the one word that comes to mind when you talk about Sarah is she's the quarterback of the defensive core, right? Um, you talk about that first pass and the ability to slow down the game and think the game from the defensive side is kind of comes unmatched with her. So I think when we go in and we play those international teams that love to run and gun, Sarah's game is going to be so important for our group to not get caught up in that kind of game style, to slow us down and to keep us grounded, because that's what she loves to do. And I think it's going to be very, very important for us to stay level headed with that.
Now, is she a player that plays a little bit of forward as well, or is she just strictly a defenseman? Okay, I thought maybe I mixed her up, but I thought she had played a little bit of forward. But she has another one that has a great shot. So it's funny that you say she's not, like you would call a typical goal scorer, but she has a nice heavy shot as well.
Yeah, for sure she does. I mean, I think she plays the power play with that Palma unit. So she's got a cannon. She might have played forward in college, but I'm pretty sure
Yeah,
she's always been a defenseman.
awesome. And so moving on to the next one here, we have Tanner Gates. I assume this is another first year player for the senior women.
Yeah,
So tell
this
us.
is Tanner Gates. This is might be one of my the gal I'm most excited about coming in. So Tanner also has played on Vanquish with for me the last handful of years. She played at Colgate University and has been overseas in Switzerland or Sweden this
Wow.
last year. So she brings a world of experience. She's a San Diego kid, actually, that grew up playing roller hockey, that kind of always makes a comeback in summer. I try to always get her out and keep her in the mix because she's a defenseman that has such a fun style of game to watch. She's so confusing because you'll be like, Tana, you're playing D. And she's like, you want me to play D? I'm like, yeah, you played D your entire life. She's like, I'm not D. And then you tell her to play forward. And she goes, you want me to play forward? I'm not a forward. So she's just a fun, good kid that brings so much like bubbly personality. Her double braid is the staple that you guys will see. But uh, I mean, talking about her ability to play hockey, I think she's going to shock a lot of people because not a lot of people know her, to be honest, especially in the international scene. I think she'll be like easily one of our best defensemen, which is saying something
Wow.
because like we've mentioned how deep this roster
Yeah,
is impressive.
that's that's pretty high praise. I mean, I assume. Do you know what birth year she is offhand, or
99 maybe.
okay? So she's not part of the 2000s, right? She's still got a little bit of experience
Yeah,
behind her, right? So that's
yeah.
good.
Her and Tia are kind of the same, similar age, grew up together in San Diego.
Gotcha.
So she's another one that can kind of bridge the gap between the older girls, but also like she doesn't know a lot of these girls just because she hasn't been in the roller scene as much. So I'm excited for them to kind of get to know her because, like I said, like she brings the vibes, a big locker room gal. So it'll be fun.
That's awesome. Well, I'm excited to watch her now because she's going to be someone definitely to look out for. I mean, you said it best. I mean, she's got to be one of the better defensemen on the team, so that's high praise. So I'm excited to watch her. And then we'll get to the last of the defensemen here, Victoria Hun. Her sister has played on the team previously, so now Victoria's making her way onto the roster. She's another one who has been playing for Palma forever. She's a sneaky defenseman, has that offensive ability, makes a great first pass. So tell us a little bit about why you and the selection committee selected Victoria.
Yeah, not to throw you under the bus, but it's Victoria Win.
No,
Um,
win. Sorry.
so she'll like it if I correct you. This is yeah. I mean, she's somebody that has intentionally not applied for USA for a long time. I think she's very excited this year. She's playing really good hockey, similarly to what I talked about Daniela over COVID, right? She's just been playing so much, and she's at her peak game, right? And I remember when I was her age, it's kind of this is where you peak. So she's small, she's feisty, she jumps into the play, she's gritty, she'll block shots. It'll be like you said, she's been part of that kind of Palma core. So her and Chloe actually have that kind of connection, and her and Beer as well. So seeing those two kind of line combos or matchups, it's another interesting thing we talk about why we took 7 and 7 in a deep roster of 14 because there's so many girls that can play with each other and seeing who's clicking when. in moments that we need. Like we have so many options to go to, which for Shane might be a hard thing, but I mean, I think it'll work itself out. But yeah, super excited to have Vicky. It'll be her first year in the USA uniform, so I'm excited to see that.
Yeah, she plays super hard game, and you have what's cool is with this whole roster, since we're kind of wrapping up the player roster here. You have a lot of those kind of combinations, like two girls that have played together on the factory teams or the Palma team. So it's cool because in those situations where maybe scoring isn't coming that easy, you could throw some of those combos out there where there's some familiarity there, and that should be able to generate some additional offense, which in some of these international games is tough to come by.
For sure, especially with the little nets. And then, you touched on it too. Like it's an intentional decision to put Allie up front to start because of the connection we've seen with her and Kyla, right? Like you were in China and you watched them.
Oh yeah.
I think that was the first year that we were all like, what is this? Where is this coming from? Right? Like any pass they gave to each other was going in the back of the net. And I think they also proved that again in Barcelona too. In 2019, I think they played together as well. So just familiarity for sure. But then I'm also excited to see some kind of new combos and crossovers from the Palma and Rink Rat girls and some of the other teams that are here. So yeah, we've got a lot to work with.
All right. So moving on to the goaltender. So obviously we're a goalie pod. Rob plays goalie. Dwyer played goalie. I play a little bit of goalie. So we are a straight goalie pod. So Frankie Sanchez, I've watched this girl play. She is awesome. She's nasty. She's really good at reading the play, and I think that's her biggest asset. Is like she's a smart goaltender, and I think in roller when you can't rely on the sliding, and especially in the international, you can't use slide pads and everything. You can't rely on just sliding and being acrobatic and athletic. So I think one of her biggest assets is that she reads the game really well and can anticipate saves. So tell us about Frankie. I believe this is her first time on the team as well.
That's actually a good question. She might have played over the last 4 years. I'm not sure.
I think she was on the roster, but never got a chance to play for some reason, maybe like with ice hockey or something. But
yeah, I should know that. I should know my history. I mean, you guys, it's funny we talk about goalies. I know nothing about goalies, so you guys are the goalie pod. I should let you speak to them. But you nailed it on the head with Frankie, honestly. And I think where she's at in ice hockey now, she's got some experience. So hopefully she can come home this summer and get a lot of games under her belt, so she feels comfortable on wheels going into the tournament. It's nice having the tournament in September because we get to go through a whole run of roller tournaments to kind of prep. Sometimes that leads to a super long summer, and then when you get to that international tournament, it's a grind to get through that. But I think for a lot of our girls, it'll be very beneficial, especially for Frankie.
I mean, the thing with Frankie, she plays D1 ice hockey, right? Where is she at? I forget what college she's at.
I think it's Sacred Heart or something.
Yes, that's exactly it, Rob. Yeah, she's a D1 ice hockey player, so she's going to come in shape, and like you said, it's just about getting on the wheels for the rest of the summer. And being in September, it is a blessing and a curse. It's a curse because you might lose a couple players to ice hockey with going back to school and stuff, but it is a blessing because you do get a full roller season to get acclimated with the wheels again. And then last but not least, Jolie Savoy. She's a California girl. Tell us a little bit about her. I believe she's one of the younger goalies in the mix as well.
Yeah, she's another younger goalie that we're excited to have her and kind of give her the opportunity, right? I don't want to be a coach that names a 1 and a 2, but I think in any position that she is given, she's going to be really good in that role and be kind of a supportive teammate, and also, get a chance to be a starter. So I think she's as equally excited about the opportunity as we are, and I think she deserves to get the nod for sure.
Yeah, it's going to be in the international game. We talked about it with Tim Love too, with the goaltending. Sometimes you don't know if you're getting air conditioning in these places, so you may have to split a game because the periods are longer. So what you're saying, and from what I'm hearing, like you could play 1A, 1B, right, and it's not going to matter. So it's good to have that confidence as a player, especially that hey, if we have to throw in, either Frankie or Jolie, like it doesn't matter. We got a good backbone behind us anyway, which I think is going to allow you guys to play more free. And I think that's ultimately what a good goaltending core does. So, yeah, it's really cool to hear you say that about such a young goalie making their way into the USA scene. And real quickly, I know we've kept you long, and like you said, you're working way more than I have. It seems like with the Ducks program. But let's just real quickly talk about the coaches. You talked about Shane earlier. When I played for Skits out Winter Nats, Shane was one of those guys that I feel like was very direct in what he said. He didn't say much, right? But he's very direct. He's like, hey, you're not playing good. And it's black and white. And I love that in a coach. And I think that's what's great about having a head coach like Shane, and then having some like two ladies like Lisa and yourself, who you've played on the team forever, all the girls. You could be that kind of, like almost the person who picks them up in like a tough situation as well, where the coach sometimes has to be hard. But can you just talk about kind of the three of you and why you think you guys are going to have such good chemistry?
Yeah, well, we talked a little bit about Shane, but I want to talk about Lisa too. Her married name's Zuba, but like I mentioned, her last name is Juvenelli. So when you hear me say Juvie, I'm referring
Okay.
to Lisa. Um, Juvie was my first captain when I ever first came into the team. She played on the team its very first year in its inception. She played ice hockey at Northeastern. She coached at Quinnipiac. She coached for Connecticut, Whale, and the NWHL. Like her resume is probably better than Shane and I's put together, to be honest. So she could very easily be head coach of this team. But what's interesting for her is she hasn't been around the roller scene for a while. So she's coming into this tournament with kind of fresh eyes on all these girls, which is probably the best thing that Shane and I could ask for, because I wouldn't say we're biased. I think we do a very good job of, identifying who brings what to the team. But she can be very blanket of like, you know, Kyla Kraft, you're not playing well, and
Yeah, that's fair.
there's no ifs, ands, or buts about that. And she's another one that kind of just says it how it is, and can bridge the gap between, like you said, Shane, who's very pointed in his communication, but for good reason. And then I think I'll be able to kind of marry the younger girls and bring them along, and like you said, kind of, I'm not really a raw coach, but kind of help pick girls up, and identify if they're down or not having a good game, or where I can kind of insert myself into that. But I think Shane and Juvie also go way back, so there's a lot of history there for them. And I've known Shane for a long time, and obviously Juvie's been like a mentor to me. So I think just having us three together, like I'm excited to go on the trip with them. Honestly, we talk about so much about the hockey, but we kind of forget that you're going to Italy and you're going to compete at a world championship, and you have to love who you're going with. And like these two they're just incredible people and human beings. And I've traveled a lot with Juvie, so it'll be fun to get back at and doing that with her.
I always find it's funny you mentioned that and you kind of wrap up with that, because I always like, as a player when I was playing, we're always like, what do you think the coaches are doing right now? And it's like they're probably having a time, like hanging out, going to dinners, like especially in Italy. You and I have traveled there both. Like, what an experience you get to have with the food and the wine and all that stuff.
What a
So
flex, Ant.
I'm just saying, it is what it is. But
So
it
I'll flex a little bit too, actually. So this year is in Roca Rosso, and it's the first year that I ever won with Team USA. We won gold. Another dramatic fashion with Kayla DeMint, scoring with like 1 second left on the clock. And it's just a small city up in the mountains, so I'm excited. It's one of those where like once you get there, you're not leaving. You get to walk around town, and
like Asiago.
yeah, it's exactly like it's smaller than Asiago actually, but I loved Asiago too. So yeah, it's fun, right? At the end of the day, you're traveling to Italy to play in a hockey tournament. Like, there's nothing more fun than that.
Yeah, it's funny because like when you're up in Italy especially, they take hockey pretty seriously. Like obviously
Yes.
soccer, football is like the biggest sport, but when you're in these small towns, like hockey's the big thing, right? So this event's going to be a huge event in Italy, and being the world championships now, they've kind of changed things up with world skate like every 2 years and stuff. So now these events carry even more weight behind it. So it's good to see. I think you mentioned it earlier, a new coaching staff, just for like a fresh set of eyes. Like you had mentioned about Lisa, like she doesn't have any bias with any players. So she's going to tell you how it is. Like if, Kyla or Allie, one of your good players is just having an off game, which happens, she could be a person that says, hey, listen, you don't have it right now. Here's, go do the simple things. Go out there and be a puck possession player, whatever it is. So I think from, just seeing this the past few years, it's awesome to have 3 new coaches on the staff and 3 coaches that really know their players and have really, really good accolades and a good history behind them.
Yeah, I think it's the reason why we have such a deep roster, right? And we went through the selection process, all 3 of us together, and we talk about taking a deep roster, but really, when you look at it, like, who do you cut, right? Like, there's no weakness in this roster, which is super exciting about, and I think a lot of that is because a turn of the guard with coaches. A lot of girls came out of the woodwork that it might not have applied or didn't like how things were ran or whatever it may be. So that's I think what I'm excited about most is the opportunity to get fresh looks, and hopefully it shouldn't be Shane, Juvie, and I in the next couple of years. There should always be changing. When inevitably when Laura Bejaranta retires, like she should get a nod at coaching this team. Same thing with Aliera if she wants to coach the team. Same thing with Kyla. Those veteran girls. Jen Friedman's a great coach. When they're done playing and they decide to hang up the skates, like it should be them taking the reins.
Awesome. Yeah, it's great input from you. I mean, you really hit the nail on the head. I mean, the knowledge that you have of the players, I think you're going to be a perfect fit. And, when we release this roster, I think a lot of these other countries are going to be looking at this roster and saying, this is a pretty scary USA roster. And we're seeing, like you said, like a girl like Victoria, who has not really avoided, but hasn't played on the team and should have been on the team plenty of times. She's in the mix now. When you see names like this and some of these girls that you've spoken about, it sounds like this is going to be a pretty lethal team. And like I had mentioned earlier, probably one of the best women's teams we've seen in the past few tournaments. So definitely excited, to watch you guys play in September. So we first and foremost like to thank you for taking your time out of the day. You're a busy woman, so we appreciate you hopping on here, and pretty short notice too. So we're kind of releasing this as like a nice surprise little podcast on a Friday. So when we release this roster, I think the rest of the world is gonna have really good insight, and hopefully not too much insight into the girls here, but hopefully we didn't spill the candy in the lobby. But it's awesome to have you on, and we definitely appreciate you sharing your time with us today.
Yeah, no problem. I mean, I think you intended this on being a quick hit, but I talked too much, so we went podcast length. So you can drop it as a pod.
Listen, it's better to have someone who talks than someone who doesn't talk at all. So that's what we always say here.
Pleasure to be on, by the way. I love just to throw back in your guys' court. Like, I love what you guys do. It's so big for the game. Everybody knows RDN. And like having your guys' presence at every tournament, like it's another one. You guys are kind of unsung heroes that kind of fall behind, the praise, but what you do for our sport is huge. So appreciate you guys and having me on.
Yeah, we really appreciate it. Thank you for coming on. Hopefully we can do a in-person one, maybe at Narch or something like that. And before you guys head off to Italy.
Yeah, for sure. I'll be around. Hit me up. I think I'm playing 30 plus women's.
There we go.
Well, you told me you were retiring.
Yeah, but 30 plus.
Yeah, 30 plus. You can always play 30 plus.
Okay.
I'm retiring
she'll
from
be
pro.
playing. Yeah, right. You'll be playing pro at the next tournament. I'll see you there.
All righty. Thank you.
All right, Celeste. Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
See ya.